Well, first of all, I think the theme reflects the ambitions of the aviation sector at European level and at global level. Just heard it from the ICAO Secretary General. And it reflects also the expectations of our citizens. And Mr. Marinescu this morning rightly said, people want mobility, people want to fly, but they also want to, they are concerned about their environmental footprint. And therefore we have set the ambition, and I will say it again, making Europe the most efficient and environmentally friendly sky to fly in the world. And this is nothing new. We have started, and many initiatives are ongoing. The introduction of SAF, Philip, you mentioned it's an EU law since yesterday, Refuel EU, very good step. We know that the airlines are investing in greener aircraft. We know our colleagues from Clean Aviation are researching in the new airplanes of the future, hydrogen, electric. So a lot of things are going on, but this basket of measures is also including operational improvements, which are related to the airspace and to air traffic management procedures. And it's time to become concrete. It's time to act now. And therefore, our three organizations felt the need to table a discussion paper which takes stock of the situation, where are we today, and ask the questions. And let me read out three, which I think are really crucial for our debate. What is the role of air traffic management in addressing the climate impact of aviation? What does it really mean to become the most efficient and environmentally friendly sky? And do we have the right ambition level for environmental performance in the European Air Traffic Management Master Plan? So we don't have the solutions yet. We have the questions. We have we know where we are starting from. We have the baseline, and it's now time within our community here over the next months to discuss, and let's find the right answers in order to design the new master plan as a major contribution to addressing aviation's environmental impact.
Thank you very much. And I want to come back on that. Do we have the right level of ambition in a moment? But Marylin, as we've already heard, one core theme, which this discussion paper focuses on, sustainability, which will frame the new master plan. Just your assessment of where we stand in greening aviation. How many marks out of 10 would you give us? Where are we on that journey at the moment?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you to Andreas for giving to Eurocontrol the opportunity to participate to that paper that I believe is really important. So to come back first to your question, a lot of things has been said already. For instance, for the use of sustainable aviation fuel, Philippe has mentioned the mandate, so we know where we go. You know, it's 6% by 2030, and then we will have more in 2050. So we know what is coming up. Then we have a fleet renewal, more efficient aircraft, more efficient engines, and the EU taxonomy is supporting them as well. And then we have also the new entrants, such as electric aircraft, hydrogen aircraft. It has been mentioned already, and there is a lot of work going on. But if we have to achieve our objective of the aviation green deals by 2030, for the time being, we are relying a lot on market-based measures. But ideally, we should reduce our dependency to market-based measures. And by 2050, it should be really the minimum, the last option. And it's why I believe that ATM has a big role to play. And I must say, you know, with ATM, we can do a lot before 2030. We have published a report 2 years ago mentioning this, but I really believe that it can be done. And this was the purpose of that paper. It's to really emphasize the need to do ATM contribution now, not to wait by 2050. Just doing now, because we have a responsibility towards our citizens as well. Everyone is waiting us to decarbonize, so it's our permit to operate. It's also our permit to growth, if I may say. So we really need to do it from an ATM point of view, and this is what we would like to convey in that document.
So you talk there, Marylin, about that ATM contribution, and we keep coming back to that question of, are we being ambitious enough? How ambitious do we need to be? From your perspective, Takis, how great can the contribution of ATM be to meeting that net zero target? We've heard figures of 10 to 12% may be from ATM alone. Is that high enough? Should we do more? We've also heard that current solutions could deliver a 4% reduction. Is it enough? How ambitious do we need to be?
What I have I will say, captured from today's discussion is that a wider consensus exists amongst all stakeholders, industry, EU institutions, member states, and NGOs on the ambitious decarbonization targets for the air transport sector. To achieve this, we all said that we need to work together, and we need to adopt a very, I will say, firm governance, I will say, mechanism of decisive and coordinated actions, including, as said by many, I will say, speakers, but also how we see it in the agency, including the introduction of large-scale, I will say, sustainable aviation fuel, low and zero emission aircraft, and other operational improvements that need to be introduced across, I will say, the aviation chain. While, for example, the sustainable aviation fuels and new aircraft developments will take, I will say, more considerable time to produce efficient environmental benefits, ATM can provide a significant and immediate, I will say, contribution in making aviation climate neutral by introducing new technologies, procedures on how ATM operates. As said, I think, by many speakers, achieving the zero emission CO2 emissions targets by 2015. The key behind this is the cooperation by all stakeholders and through ATM contributions in optimizing, I will say, the operational environment and providing fuel efficient trajectories, but also offering and the most effective use of airspace will contribute to achieving those goals. And I think one element that I also retained from many presentations, and we are also working on collaboratively, and I would like also to mention, is trajectory-based operations. That will empower actually a fully collaborative environment for all flight trajectories, and will ensure the cooperation by all concerned actors for all, I will say, flights. And this will also enable aircraft in flying closer to the most optimum fuel-efficient trajectory, and, as said, should ensure that key data is shared amongst all the stakeholders concerned, be it airliners, aerodromes at departure and arrival, the network manager, but also many different national service providers, air navigation, but also data service providers. And having said this, we are there also to contribute, and we believe that SESAR technical solutions are necessary and need to work towards the implementation of the 2050 goals of and this can only be achieved by, I will say, a very clear and robust monitoring system, so that we can also ensure that the attached environmental benefits are known. From EASA perspective, also to bring a bit overview, and from what we have learned from PCP and CP1, I think a good quantification of the benefits is key for the deployment decisions, but also to ensure a buy-in from the operational stakeholders. We, on our side, we will continue to support the European Commission with technical advice, so that in providing for each solution that will be mandated for deployment, so that they are ready for implementation and they contribute also to the long-term aspirational goals. But we will also contribute with a solid quantification of the environmental benefits. And I think last but not least, and most importantly, as already stressed, we need to be there early enough. because this way we will be able to identify emerging risks in the rulemaking, standards, certification fields, which will, in the long term, enable the SESAR solutions, both in the development and the deployment phases. That is what I think will be important in also achieving the long-term aspirational goals.
Thank you very much. And Takis there very much focusing on those broad environmental benefits. We tend to focus inevitably on emissions, a lot of focus on decarbonisation. I think someone described it this morning as the biggest challenge this sector has ever faced. But there are other areas, and SESAR has introduced indicators on noise abatement, on air quality as part of the performance framework. Marylin, for you, what do we really need to focus on? Are we over-focused on emissions? How do you see that bigger picture of those other environmental challenges?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and actually in the document we try to tackle that. So indeed, there is a big focus on CO2 emission, and when everybody is speaking about a green trajectory, we speak about a fuel-optimized trajectory. But there is another challenge that is coming up on our shoulders for ATM. It's about non-CO2. So we will have to achieve what we call the climate trajectory. And for that, we clearly need more research, and it's what we highlight in that document, because we will have to work on many different projects to improve our prediction, our observation and verification modeling. It's key, and it's part of SESAR program, and we will need also the tool to tackle this, because it's already quite challenging to fly the most fuel-optimized trajectory, but it will be even more challenging to be able to fly the climate trajectory. So it's definitely something that we emphasized in the document. And it's also about noise. I think it's really important that we work also on noise and air quality, because at the end of the day, when we speak about inefficiency, it's around the airport that we still have a lot to do. And again, there we have to tackle and to find some trade-off between noise and emission. So it will be quite challenging as well, and it's also something that we emphasized in the document.
And it's something that links back to all our conversations today, because we've talked about public acceptance, we've talked about that negative image of the sector. So, Takis, crucial really also to focus on these other questions. I was very struck that you talked all the time about environmental benefits more broadly.
Yes, and I think in looking at it a bit more broadly and making it happen, I think we need to see it holistically in providing guidance for all R&D perspectives. What can be achieved by which timeframes and by which means. I think this was stressed almost by everyone. I think it will be important in addressing, I will say, not only CO2 emissions, but also the other elements of greening aviation. We need to have a credible and robust metrics system to be used in the updated ATM Master Plan, and as said already by Marylin, for CO2, non-CO2, noise, local air quality. That is harmonized with the European Aviation Environmental Report and the SES performance planning approach. And of course, in all this, you need a trustworthy, I will say, data stream to feed and support the monitoring process, and to also have verification systems in place to validate what has been achieved. So has it contributed to the Green Deal goals and the ATM Master Plan, I will say, objectives and targets. Having said this, I think timely delivery of solutions and the quantification of the benefits for each SESAR solution is very, very important. And also from that perspective, we can contribute, as EASA is also working on building an environmental impact monitoring capability, which will also validate what suppliers claim as true emission reductions, and will also allow to qualify what the best candidates are for greening aviation. Of course, the uptake of digital solution, especially by the national service providers and the network manager, is important. And we should not forget in all this that we need to closely involve and engage with the national aviation authorities, because they will enable everything at national level. And simply to conclude, the ATM modernization effort undertaking in the past years, I think we have seen this from a couple of reports, 5 to 10% of, I will say, CO2 emission generated by flights. It is thought that they could be avoidable. And they are caused by the fragmented ground infrastructure that has not taken full advantage of, I will say, digitalization and automation. On our side, and through the partnership with all stakeholders, but also European institution, I will say, partners, the new EASA is working on the ATM equipment conformity assessment framework, which will be there to accelerate and support. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Andreas, I mean, the paper, as you've said, aims to stimulate that debate on the contribution that air traffic management needs to make now and in the future to aviation's climate neutrality ambitions. In terms of what you've delivered already, what SESAR has done for sustainability for so far, I know it takes us back, but as we look forward, I'd just like to capture from you your sense of what the most important achievements that SESAR has made and how you see building on that.
Thank you, and I think it's important to say we are not starting from scratch. Sustainability has been present in our program for many, many years. One of our 9 current flagships is the Aviation Green Deal. You have heard this morning, we estimate that 100 out of the 127 solutions are bringing benefits to the environment, and you have seen the figure of 4%, which is our estimation if all available SESAR solutions were deployed already now. So I think for the whole ecosystem, aviation ecosystem, these 4% are certainly the right thing to capture. What is behind these figures? I mean, I could now make a long list, but it's clear we have improved arrival and departure management, AIM and DEMON, continuous climb and descent. But then yesterday, the PRB has published new figures about the year 2022. The number of continuous descents has decreased in Europe. So again, why are we not using technologies which are there and which we know make benefits? So let's look also into this without blaming anybody, but just let's see what can be done better. Extended arrival management, sometimes hundreds of nautical miles before the airport, is a huge contributor to get the aircraft at the right speed. Free routing, now in an initial phase, very soon in a cross-border, very useful for airspace users, very easy to manage to fly through an airspace. And then what we discussed already about TBO, we have started on trajectory-based operations, exchanging data between the aircraft and the ground, and this will continue. And many of our capacity solutions are also bringing indirect benefits to the environment, because having the right capacity allows also the aircraft to fly the green, the climate trajectory, which is very important. And we are not stopping there. I mean, we are looking very much so far at horizontal flight efficiency, but it's also about vertical flight efficiency. If the aircraft can fly higher, it will, of course, use less fuel and will be much better for the environment. We heard this morning green taxi at the airport. So there are different solutions at the airport to bring emissions down there. Wake energy retrieval, so that we are taking benefit from these physical conditions, is a huge potential for the en route. And having Maria Grazia sitting in the front row, I would like to give you one figure from the SESAR deployment. You have completed 259 projects, and this has saved 3.5 million tons of CO2. This is your calculation. And I think this clearly shows that we have already achieved a lot and that we can do and will do more.
Thank you very much. And before we close, I want to really come back on a question I've been asking all day, but frame it slightly differently. The discussion paper, among the key questions it asks people to address in debating the future of the master plan says, what does the next edition of the master plan need to capture for Europe to meet the climate neutrality objective? I want to boil that down and ask each of you, and Takis, I'll start with you, then Marylin and Andreas last. For you personally, the most important ingredient that the new master plan will need to contain if we are to, and I'm not going to repeat it again, yes I am, make Europe, and I'm not going to even look down this time, make Europe the most efficient and environmentally friendly sky in the world to fly. There you are, I've got it. Takis, your most important ingredient.
I think, and I need to bring that information, I see it not only one, but many. We need to have all operational stakeholders' engagement and implementing and deploying these new innovative solutions. This is very, very important. On EU institutional level, we need to move forward towards an holistic EU approach and also have an effective leadership in ensuring these environmental sustainability. As I said already, I think it will be key to develop a credible and robust metrics throughout, I will say, that path. And then from our own perspective, I will say EASA, and I think this is already happening through the very close cooperation. We need to ensure alignment between the ATM Master Plan and the European Plan for Aviation Safety, which also incorporates the rulemaking plan, which is the enabler of, I will say, deployment for SESAR solutions.
Thank you very much indeed. Marylin.
Yeah, so I think for the ATM Master Plan, what we need is a plan who is really ambitious, because we really need to show that our aviation industry is taking climate change seriously. So this is the first things to say, and it's one of the key messages, again, of that paper. Now, how to achieve that? I see two different things that really need to be done. On one side, we really need to accelerate the development and also the deployment of all technologies related to 4D trajectories. Because for me, this is really a game changer from an ATM point of view. We need more predictability in the network, so we really need to develop and to deploy 4D trajectory as quick as possible. This is for the green trajectories per se. Now we also need to tackle non-CO2. So it's why, for that reason, I want to see some ambitious also plan for non-CO2 in this ATM Master Plan in terms of research, because we really need to move forward on that topic, because there are a lot of expectation from us on that.
Absolutely. Andreas, you have the last word.
In 4 sentences, personal view. On CO2, we have to raise the bar. We can do and will do better than what we have currently in mind. On non-CO2, like Marylin was saying, we have to get it right. We have to have the scientific evidence to before allowing the policymakers to take the right informed decisions. And then, absolutely with Takis, we have to talk the same language across the different systems. We have to have the same environmental objectives, the same indicators, and to measure it's the same. So we need one system which measures it all. And last but not least, please read this discussion paper and find the answers and give us the answers. That would be a very...
And it's not too long, is it? I mean, it's not a big homework to read it. The big homework is answering those very difficult questions. Will you join me in thanking all 3 of them very much?